Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, dear partners, dear ambassadors. I am extremely pleased to be here in this beautiful city and extremely pleased to have an opportunity to address you. First, let me start by highlighting the important achievement between our countries. The Georgia-EFTA free trade agreement was signed yesterday, and this agreement will provide more market access for the goods and services. I am confident that our economic relations will move forward to a qualitatively new level. I would like to thank and congratulate the respective delegations for conducting successful negotiations with remarkable efficiency, enabling us to enter this new cooperation phase with a positive outlook. And as it was mentioned by Ambassador Livia Loy at the backdrop of UK leaving the EU, it is remarkable to move towards more trade integration with EFTA countries. Georgia is signing a free trade treaty with EFTA countries, and Iceland beating England in the football match yesterday. So I think there is a very good coincidence. In the wake of this important milestone, today's event is a perfect platform to introduce Georgia to Swiss investors and present the latest economic trends and investment opportunities to all of you. I would like to share some of our recent successes and short to medium-term plans that are relevant to the national and regional economic agenda. To briefly list what my country, Georgia, can offer to its fast-growing network of international investors. First and foremost, we are a country with an open-door policy and a favorable investment environment. According to the World Bank, we are one of the easiest countries in the world to do business in. We have the 9th lowest tax burden in the world, according to the World Economic Forum ranking. Despite the tough security challenges and political turbulences in the region, Georgia shows exceptional resilience due to its democratic and liberal economic policies. Georgia has decent economic growth. All the major credit rating agencies consider Georgia as stable. The compound annual growth of GDP in the recent period of 5 years is 4.9%, and Georgia is widely expected to maintain steady growth for years to come. FDI inflow over the last years is characterized by growth. 2016 first quarter FDI represented 103% growth compared to the same period of the last year and is the highest FDI figure since 2008. 2015 FDI amounted to 1.35 billion US dollar. As for the access to the international markets, Georgia sits at the heart of vast and growing network of free trade deals, spanning from the EU, Turkey, the CIS countries, and now EFTA states. One of the biggest achievements with regard to FTAs is the Georgia-EU Association Agreement, including a deep and comprehensive free trade area agreement, which makes the process of political and economic integration of Georgia with the EU irreversible. It brings Georgia-EU relations to a qualitatively new level of cooperation and partnership. We are confident that this should contribute to the transformation of the country into a genuine European state. We have embarked on a demanding process of implementation of wide-scale reforms, including approximation of the EU acquis, which will bring Georgia in the line with European business standards and practices. While we are beginning to enjoy closer trade and economic integration with the EU and EFTA, soon we will become the first country in the region to enjoy free trade agreement with both EU and China. We are on the final stages of FTA negotiations with China, which we hope to see concluded by the end of this year. Georgia is a country of only 3.7 million people, relying solely on our pro-business environment and enlarged market size through FTAs is certainly not enough to fully maximize our profit. The other important factor contributing to the state's overall competitive advantage is Georgia's favorable location and proximity to different trade-heavy markets. Georgia has historically played an important geostrategic role, and this is most certainly still the case today. Georgia provides competitive route linking east and west and north with south. Looking ahead, Georgia will be key to unlocking our region's ultimate success as a superhighway of trade and communication. Georgia has become an important transit and energy corridor. Pipelines linking Caspian oil and gas fields to Turkey and Europe pass through Georgia, as well as new road and rail networks that make Georgia an important logistical hub. The further development of Black Sea ports, including the new Anaklia deep sea port, strengthen Georgia's role as a Silk Road shortcut. To sum up, Georgia is progressively growing into its natural role of a regional trade and logistics hub. I would also like to draw your attention to one of the fastest growing and thriving business sectors of Georgia, which is tourism and hospitality sector. Over recent years, Georgia has seen its number of international visitors multiply. From 2007, the average annual number of international travelers has been increasing by a yearly 23% average. In 2015, the number of international visitors stood at 5.9 million, which exceeds the population of Georgia. There are no real estate ownership restrictions, and Georgia offers considerable potential to develop hotel and leisure premises, including beach resorts, wellness and spa destinations, winter ski resorts, and four-season resorts. The tourism sector is also boosted by the secure environment in the country. For example, the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Index 2015-16 ranks Georgia as the 16th most secure country in the world, just 5 steps behind Switzerland, which stands in 11th position. The number of international tourist arrivals is expected to grow by 8–10% during the next 5 years, generating more demand for infrastructure and stimulating additional investments to this sector. The bottom line of where we stand today is that Georgia is committed to sustain engagement with global markets and ready to compete for investments. We already have success stories with regard to Swiss investments in Georgia, such as Blaustein, Georgia, which was established with Georgian Swiss investment in Racha region in 2008. Since that time, the company has opened cattle farms and produces food products in line with Swiss standards. And this is important to mention that company established a cooperation model in Georgia which is unique and adjusts to the local reality, and we are going to support this model, including through the financial support, with the help of Sovereign Fund of Georgia, since it is important in the just, as I said, to the local reality, leaving the local farmers as owners of their land plots and reaching the economies of scale without depriving local small farmers of their ownership over the land parcels, and introducing new models and new expertise in farming, in Georgia's farming, and government of Georgia really believes that this will be a model which will adjust to all the mountainous regions of Georgia. And again, as I mentioned, we will, from the government side, support this expansion of this model in other regions of Georgia. Another success story is the joint stock company Margebeli, a holding established by Georgian and Swiss private investors on the Georgian market through conglomeration of the 4 biggest companies operating in various sectors of our economy. Nowadays, Margebelli Joint Stock Company owns 5 operating companies, including one of the leading producers of mineral water in Georgia, Healthy Water Joint Stock Company, and a food processing company, Marneuli Food Factory. I believe that today's event will open new opportunities for Georgian and Swiss companies to increase cooperation in the future. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Georgian businessmen who arrived especially for this forum, and of course, first of all, to thank Swiss business representatives present at this very important event. Looking ahead, with this goal of making our country a smarter place to invest and to do business, the Georgian government has adopted a 4-point reform agenda designed to ensure long-term sustainable development and inclusive growth. The pillars of 4-point reform plan are education reform, focusing on professional education and on changes of the financing model in higher education, economic development reforms, infrastructure development, and open governance. We have already initiated the corporate income tax reform with the aim of fostering an efficient and growth-friendly tax system. Under the new system, which will be effective from January next year, only distributed income will be taxed. Retained earnings will be exempt. We have also started a pension reform and reforms for capital market development. These are only a few examples of our very rich economic development reform agenda. Considerable investments and efforts will be aimed at further reforming the education system in order to bridge the gap between professional supply and impending demand. Our plan is to significantly accelerate the development of spinal road infrastructure by building east-west and south-north corridors, and Georgia's potential as a key Silk Road country between Europe and Asia must be fully unlocked, as it will also increase population mobility and the country's touristic potential. Finally, by fostering open governance, we seek to further increase private sector involvement in the legislative process and to modernize the delivery of public services. In closing, I can say that Georgia offers enormous business potential to those who seek new investment destinations across a range of the country's fastest growing sectors: clean energy, tourism, manufacturing, regional services, logistics, and agribusiness and financial sector. I can say that this is a perfect opportunity to invite you to come and see what we have to offer, choose from our menu of opportunities, and give a start to your business in Georgia. I can say that I clearly see a lasting partnership between Georgia and Switzerland, and most importantly, I can see and appreciate your interest. And of course, I can just thank you for this very important meeting and for your attention. Thank you very much.